right, good evening everybody. It is Wednesday, February 15th, 2023. It is the day after Valentine's Day. Hopefully everybody had a fantastic day with your loved ones, family members, whoever you chose to celebrate that with. Tonight we're going to talk about a couple things. Now obviously yesterday was a big day on Wall Street because we got the CPI numbers out. So for those of you who did not tune into yesterday's live stream, CPI came in at 6.4%. That is the year-over-year reading. Month-over-month, CPI rose about 0.5%. If we compare that to December's numbers, December CPI was up 6.5%, and then month-over-month, 0.1%. So on an annual basis, it is true that inflation is starting to cool a little bit, but this month in January, even though we have that new calculation, and we sort of talked about that yesterday, inflation actually went up in a few key categories, specifically food, specifically energy, and shelter. Just to do a quick review, shelter went up 7.9% year over year and exploded 0.7% month over month. Now, the only bright spot I would really say in that CPI report was used cars. Used vehicles fell 11.6% year over year, and they also dropped almost 2% month over month. Markets rallied today. All of the major equity indices, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, the S&P 500, and the NASDAQ were all in the green for the day. But I wanted to talk about the market's appetite for risk. So if we look at risk assets, one of the things that I wanted to make a little bit of a compare and contrast here, if we remember during the start of the bear market, you'll remember we were talking about a few select stocks, one of which being Church & Dwight. The ticker symbol for Church & Dwight is CHD, and Church & Dwight is a company that makes baking soda, toiletries, basic household products that people would really buy anyway, regardless of if it's a recession or if it's a big economic boom. And what you'll notice is that during that time when the market first started to roll over, these particular stocks like Church & Dwight were actually doing really well. They were trading near their all-time record highs. A lot of institutions were piling into these names, these more conservative names. But notice where they're trading at today. And this is sort of, maybe we can gauge a little bit of the market's appetite for risk here. Church & Dwight, I think, is about 30% off its highs. Now, at its low, it was about, I think, 33 or 34% off of all-time record highs. So the point I'm trying to make here is that institutions and market participants seem to have a little bit more appetite for risk, maybe selling off some of the more conservative names such as Church & Dwight and then buying more risky assets like growth stocks. I think one of the main points that we could make here is by turning our attention over to the cryptocurrency market. Now, Bitcoin caught a very big bid today. I think it was up 10% on the day. I think it's trading at 24,626. So I think this is important to pay attention to. Now, I'm not saying this is the end-all be-all. All I'm saying is that notice the sector rotation here. Notice where money is moving in and out of the market. It seems like tech is getting pretty big bid here. The NASDAQ was up markedly on the day. If you look at the Qs, the QQQ, or the triple Q, which is the NASDAQ 100 ETF, we were almost up 1% today. Trading at 309. I don't know, we'll talk more about it on tonight's live stream. We are actually going to be walking towards the FTX arena, which I'm not sure if they renamed it yet from the Sam Bankman-Fried scandal. And then we're going to be talking about short-term rentals. Let me say hello to everybody in the chat. I see Terry is here. What's up? Good to see you. Austin City Limits, Sunshine After Rain, Dr. Longiz, Austin City Limits, Ryan Beck, good to see you guys. You know what, let's quickly check the 10-year U.S. Treasury yield before we get started. 10 years at 3.791%. Interesting. All right, let me put away my laptop here. You know, I was going to start the live stream in the office today, but there's a ton of people in the office, again, working late, which I respect. Now, as you guys know, the 20th floor right here in the 200 Southeast Financial Center is the WeWork office, but Citadel Securities, which is Ken Griffin's company, actually bought out the entire south side of the office. So all the way at the 20th floor, you have Citadel Securities, so there's always a lot of action, a lot of movement up there. Abby's here, ATC. What's a cool shot of the 200 Southeast Financial Center with the American flag waving in the breeze. It's a pretty nice night here in downtown Miami, guys. It's actually kind of chilly. I had to put a little bit of a jacket on. It was 80 degrees and sunny all day, but I think we're now in the low 70s. Sunshine after rain, welcome. Anti25 says, hey, good to see you, love is kind. Zubin H says, hey Tom. Dan Zhang, welcome. Dan, any thoughts about the movements in the market as of late? It seems as if this market has a little bit more appetite for risk, which is actually pretty encouraging. Now, another thing I wanted to talk about today, really quick, this is the Metro Mover for those of you who are unfamiliar with the Miami live streams. Obviously, being in Miami, the trains are underground, so they just put the trains, they sort of snake them throughout the entire city. Kind of makes the city look like a little bit of a video game here. Ali Star, what's up? Says, hey Tom, and great evening. Thank you so much, Ali Star. Chris says, hey Tom, much love from Canada. Love that. Steph UH is here, says, very pretty. You are now looking at the City National Bank building, which is also called the Miami Tower. And I'll give you guys one more shot of the American flag. This is probably my favorite American flag in all of Miami because it's so tremendous. It stands right outside of the 200 Southeast Financial Center. Now, I wanted to make an additional point here. Let me see if I could adjust the camera. I wanted to make an additional point here, team, that the reaction to earnings, okay? So we always talk about earnings, obviously, but what I think is more important than, you know, even the earnings themselves, and it may sound kind of crazy, it's actually the reaction to earnings. Now, if you notice in bear markets, companies could actually report decent quarters, but the reaction is so piss poor and horrible, and the stock could gap down on some pretty decent reports. Now, I'd like to mention the reaction to earnings broadly is actually improving a little bit. We had Airbnb report yesterday. I think the stock gapped up 8 to 10% after another beat and raise quarter, so that is now officially on the watch list. So yes, pay attention to earnings. Yes, pay attention to the fundamentals, but what's almost more important than the fundamentals in and of itself is the reaction to those earnings reports. That helps us gauge an appetite for risk in the market. Well, what's up, Richard? Welcome. Hopefully you had a good Valentine's Day yesterday, and thank you for joining us tonight. Dan Zhang says, I was actually watching ES after 9:30. Boy, it was choppy as hell. Yeah, futures were pretty choppy, but here's something that I'm looking at as well. And I believe we talked about this a little bit yesterday, but we'll feel free to review again today. Really quick, we are going to head over to the Elser. I'm going to point out this building. I think you guys are going to find it quite interesting as we continue our topic of short-term rentals. But for those of you who are new to the Miami live streams, this right here is the Intercontinental Hotel. Very famous hotel here in downtown Miami. Hey Terry, thank you so much for your very kind and generous $50 donation. It says, we're in escrow on a townhouse in the Upper West Side of New York City. Oh my God, fantastic. Found the perfect property for our granddaughters. Celebrate with us. Oh my God, Terry, that's fantastic. Now, I'll tell you this, Upper West Side of Manhattan, and I'm not just saying that because you gave a very kind donation. You could even ask anybody in the chat. By far my favorite neighborhood in Manhattan. Ask anybody in the chat, I hammer on the Upper West Side of Manhattan constantly, almost to the point of ad nauseum. The Upper West Side is very special to me. It's where I pretty much had my first job, so I think your granddaughter is going to love it up there. Now, I have to recommend a couple places since you are already an escrow on the townhouse there. There's probably the best Thai food restaurant in New York City on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, and it's called Sen, S-E-N-N, and my good friend actually owns it, so if you ever want to stop by, let me know and I'll definitely have them hook it up for you. Jacob's Pickle is also another pretty good restaurant too on the Upper West Side. It's just a fantastic neighborhood, and I'm so happy for you guys. So thanks again for the donation, and congratulations and best of luck to your granddaughter as well. I think you said she's going to be studying at NYU, so that's awesome. Now this building right here is 50 Biscayne, but we're going to continue to walk down to a building called the Elser. Now, I didn't know originally if this building was, well, I should say this. I'm not sure if the building, and you guys are going to see it here in a minute, was originally planned for short-term rentals in and of itself. I think the developers actually made that slight change to try to change things up, but it's this ultra-luxury condominium, and all of the units are fully furnished. So you buy the units. I think it goes from like a studio or 2-bedroom. All the units are furnished. I think it has 2 swimming pools, gyms, the works. But the majority of the units, it's a hotel as well, but the majority of the units are for investors to purchase, and then they have management companies managing the short-term rentals. I don't know if that's a little bit of a frothy signal or if it's a good idea. I mean, you're right across the street from the Bayside Marketplace, so I would assume the demand would be there, but we'll take a look at the building tonight. Here we have the Metro Mover going by again. Looks super futuristic. Hey, Ken Brockton, what's up? Says, hey Tom, what's your strategy when to take profits in the stock market? That's a good question. Usually for me, what I try to do is set parameters and different guardrails. Now, I'm going to give you a book recommendation that literally outlines these particular sell rules that we're going to talk about and we'll cover. It's a book by William J. O'Neill, actually the founder of Investors Business Daily. The company was acquired by News Corporation, and when we do our New York streams, we always walk past the building, News Corp, Wall Street Journal, Fox News, Barron's, and the like. Now Investors Business Daily, IBD, is under that umbrella as well. But the book is called How to Make Money in Stocks, and it details very clearly different types of sell rules. But I also think it's appropriate to talk about your investing time horizon, right? So there's some companies that, you know, I have in an IRA, which is like a tax advantaged account, and I just hold them regardless and, you know, never sell them. However, I have a long short portfolio where I'm actively managing these particular stocks, and usually what I'll do is I'll use key moving averages as guardrails. So if a stock breaks below its 50-day moving average on extremely high volume, I'm probably going to let rip, you know, a couple hundred shares of the stock or whatever percentage is of my portfolio, and you could sort of use that as a guardrail. But let's say if you're in a bull market and you catch a true market leader. This is Bayfront Park. You can see the Ferris wheel in the distance. Right here is Bayside Marketplace. But let's say if you catch a true market leader, right? And it's a raging bull market, and the stock has gone up, hundreds of percent. Usually what'll happen is that stock will blow off, where you'll have day after day after day of consecutive new highs in the stock. It'll probably gap up, and it'll be on extremely high volume. So that'll usually be like a blow off euphoric top. You want to sell into that sort of activity, right? And you'll see really, really high extension from the 50-day, from the 200-day, even the 10-day. But read the book. You can get it on Amazon used for like $3, $5. How to Make Money in Stocks by William J. O'Neill. Arguably one of the best proprietary prop traders of all time. Probably him, Paul Tudor Jones, Stanley Druckenmiller up there. But that's sort of how I would handle it. Hey, Rocky Rodriguez is here. Rocky Rodriguez, is Bitcoin hitting 500K? Well, to be honest, to be fair, Bitcoin had a really good day today. I think up 10%. And at the very beginning of the live stream, when we were talking about the introduction, this is the Elser building right here, by the way, that we're going to visit today. This is the market's appetite for risk. The market seems to have a higher risk tolerance now. I think this is the groundbreaking for the brand new Waldorf Astoria. This is pretty cool. So the Waldorf Astoria is going to be the tallest residential apartment building south of the World Trade Center. Sally's here, what's up? I'm gonna give you guys a look into the construction site. Let me know what you guys see. But this is the official site, guys. I think they already did the groundbreaking. So right here, this is going to be the tallest building in Miami and the tallest residential apartment building south of One World Trade Center in New York. That's going to be amazing. And I think the developers of the Elser is the same developers that will be doing the Waldorf Astoria. If you want to check it out, just visit waldorfresidencesmiami.com. I think they have a sales office, the sales gallery on Northeast 4th Street. If anybody's interested in purchasing one of these properties, that's going to look insane. I can't even believe just the transition of the Miami skyline is going to be nuts. Hey, Hawaii is here. What's up? Good to see you, Hawaii. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Sel Stahl says, hey, Tom, welcome. LV Original is here. Always a pleasure to see you. Long time no see. L, I hope you're doing fantastic. Thank you for joining us here at Walks on Wall Street. Richard Vogel, welcome. B. Smith, always appreciate you. Texas is for short-term stock selling. Take any profits over 35%. Yeah, I mean, I think it just depends, right? But here's something I think as I've gotten older, right? And if you have been involved in markets or even, maybe you've worked at a hedge fund or something like that, what you'll notice is the investors who've made the very, very big money, I'm talking, millions of dollars, right? 50 to 100 million, 200 million dollars. It's very hard to achieve that by constantly, locking in 9-10% profits, right? It's just not worth it. What you want to do is, if you're running a lot of money, what you want to do is you want to find a quality company, right? And we've talked about this before. And if you look at the data and you look at the statistics, if you can sit and size into a big position and put on crazy size into a particular stock that has at least 6 to 10 beat and raise quarters, right? So think about 4 quarters in a year. This is a nice shot of the Elser here. I think this is the pool deck. But if you can stay with the stock and ride it out through 6 to 10 or even 12 beat and raise quarters, that stock is going to be a freaking monster, okay? And if you want to look at some of these back throughout history, you know, these are like the AMDs of the world, the NVIDIAs. And it's sort of, that concept sort of flies in the face to a lot of, you know, retail trading mentality. You know, they just want to, you know, sit at their screen and look at the 3-minute bar and, you know, lock in, you know, a 2% profit and stuff like that. And it's really not how to do it if you want to make the big money. This is kind of crazy. This is what the Waldorf Astoria is going to look like. It's almost like building blocks on top of one another. Kind of a weird design, right? I'm not sure if I like it. I think it's unique, but I'd need to see it in person. It just kind of looks too futuristic for me. What do you guys think? It's just a very unique design. Let's say that, unique. I like how they printed a mural of the Miami skyline. So that's going to be the Waldorf Astoria. This is 1000 Museum. Maybe we'll walk down there tonight. That's another beautiful apartment building here in downtown Miami. And you'll notice this is the, I'm just going to call it the American Airlines Arena, no longer the FTX Arena. I guess it kind of looks cool though. It's going to be really weird to see the Miami skyline change over the next couple of years. But yeah, anyway, as I was saying, you know, you gotta buy right and sit tight. You know, John Bogle or Jack Bogle was the founder and CEO of the Vanguard Group, obviously before he passed away. And you gotta hold these names and sit with them, right? If you can, I think the magic elixirs, if you can find like a mid-cap company that has great earnings and sales growth, and you can hold that stock throughout the evolution of the company and ride it to a large cap or a mega cap company, you know, that stock is going to go up tenfold over the course of a couple of years. But you got to be able to ride through the volatility. And usually what happens, you know, if you study previous true market leaders, the volatility of a lot of these companies that have fantastic revenue growth, fantastic earnings growth, great return on equity, really, really good pre-tax and after-tax profit margins, their volatility seems to contract a little bit. This is the Elser Hotel and Residence's front entrance to the parking garage. See, it is a collection of bedrooms. So if you buy them, you don't have to furnish them. They are totally furnished themselves. And then you could just rent them out as a short-term rental. So let's say if you're only in Miami for 2 or 3 months out of the year, well, that's fine. You can just rent it out to somebody else. It's kind of a cool, unique concept. But I know a lot of people in the chat don't really like the short-term rental business, but I think it's kind of unique. We'll try to check out the front entrance here. But yeah, I think, you know, as you mature as an investor, you gotta elongate the time you hold these companies. And oftentimes when a company is not very sound on its fundamentals, it'll trade all over the place. You know, it'll gap down 10%, gap up 10%. That's mainly because it's not a quality company and it's probably very illiquid. If you have a ton of liquidity, institutions are going to pile into the name, and if it has earnings, it's even better. Hey, the Mighty Bull is here. Good to see you, Mighty Bull. Thank you for joining us. Arsenal Fan 13 says, Tom, the design seems a bit on the risky side, but the developers seem reputable. So you're saying the like the building block style maybe look a little bit too risky for you? Maybe, I don't know. I'd love to get access inside the building to show you guys some of the units. I think that'd be kind of cool. Abdullah is here. Welcome. Good to see you, Abdullah. Mike C says the hurricane updrafts on the overhang part of that building feels like a disaster waiting to happen. Yeah, I mean, Mike, you guys make a good point. You know, why are they continuously building all of these super mega tall buildings in downtown Miami if, you know, we're very prone to getting smoked by hurricanes? But look, I'm not an engineer, I'm not a developer. I would assume they couldn't get the permits to build these properties and these buildings if it wasn't safe. I don't know. Kanar Bar is here, says good night, Tom, and everybody in the chat. Good to see you, Kanar Bar. Thank you for joining us. Rat Fink is here. Says, hey Tom, hope everybody is good. I am fantastic. I hope you are well too. This is the beautiful American Airlines Arena. Julia M says, hey Tom and fam, so glad to be with you all. Julia, thank you for joining. Keith is here. Welcome, Keith. Now, you know what we'll do since we're here? Let's walk one block north of the American Airlines Arena. I think there's a big boat and yacht show going on now in downtown Miami and South Beach. I think this is the largest boat show and yacht show in the entire world. It's going on right now. Hey Rich, as I advised to walk inside downtown and also in Brickell Village, also Coral Gables too, says Rich. Yeah, Rich, we pretty much walk Brickell almost every night. It's a beautiful area. I really, really like it a lot. Brickell City Center is fantastic as well. So I agree with you. But this is actually my favorite building in Miami, Florida, right here. This is the Freedom Tower. This is where many of the Cuban immigrants first arrived to the United States. And I love the architecture of the building. I love what it means for not only the state of Florida, but the United States of America. This is a beacon of hope, a beacon of capitalism, beacon of free markets. And I love it. You have the Cuban flag here and the American flag. It's my favorite building in the entire city. We'll wait to cross the street here. Hey, my friend TC, what's up? Says, I think the building block style will not be appreciated in the future. It might be a cool concept, but years after it's built, people will think it's ugly. Perhaps, you may be right. Yeah, it's probably not very timeless, right? That's another reason why I love the Upper West Side of Manhattan. Now, you guys have joined the live streams tons of times when we walk the Upper West Side of Manhattan. Like, look at the architecture of the Dakota. It's just, in 100 years from now, it's still gonna be gorgeous. To TC's point, are we gonna looking at these big blocks stacked on top of one another in 100 years? I don't know. Probably not. Maybe. Who knows? Hey, Dia's here. What's up? Nina, welcome. So another interesting piece of real estate here in downtown Miami is the Paramount Tower. This is another ultra luxury building, and it is really, really gorgeous. Now, depending on what holiday it is, they usually have the signage lit up. I think yesterday it said Happy Valentine's Day, which was pretty cool. For Christmas, it'll say Merry Christmas. It's a pretty unique building. I think it has the most amenities of any building in the United States, I think. Hey, ATC is here. What's up? Good to see you. Brian says, hey Tom and everybody in the chat, happy midweek. Classic architecture in major cities will always be there. I agree. Ren 1018 says, Tom, what do you think? We are in a huge bull trap, ? Well, here's what I think. It's actually improving quite substantially. And I think the most telling is if we think all the way back to the very beginning of the bear market, which was over a year ago now. Now, does anybody remember what we were talking about at the very, very beginning of the bear market? So this was when a lot of the very high beta growth stocks were getting killed. But the major equity indices such as the S&P 500, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, and the NASDAQ were still trading near their all-time record highs. Now, why was this? Well, it was because a lot of the institutions were hiding out in those very big mega cap names, which is very heavily weighted to the S&P, right? If you just go to something like barchart.com or just Google top 10 stocks in the S&P 500. Since the S&P is a market capitalization weighted index, a lot of the large companies or have huge market caps, man, it's so windy out tonight, would prop up the major indices. So another thing you had is a very, very big flight to quality. So look at some of the stocks like Church & Dwight. Does everybody remember us talking about Church & Dwight? So Church & Dwight is an extremely boring company, right? And I say boring in a way to kind of be a little bit facetious, just to say that, they make baking soda, they make toiletries and things like that. And those stocks were acting really, really well. But now, look at where Church & Dwight is trading now. Below its 50-day moving average. I think it's down about 30% from all-time record highs. And that just goes to show you that the market is a lot of those names and in to some of the more speculative names. Now, will this last? I don't know, but it's encouraging because the breadth of the market is expanding. What I like to call it is the risk tolerance is back in the market. Now, take a look at Bitcoin and some of the other major cryptocurrencies that even if, let's say this, even if you hate Bitcoin, you think it's a scam, you have to pay attention to it because that is a measurement of risk in the market. So we can use this to sort of gauge the market's appetite for risk. So if you have things like, the Cathie Wood ARK Innovative ETF catching a pretty nice bid, ticker symbol ARKK, if you have things like Bitcoin catching a really nice bid, that means the market, I guess we'll cross here. You can see all the boat show stuff. That means the market is getting a little bit, let's just say, market participants are willing to take on a little bit more risk, have more risk tolerance. So I've increased my exposure in a couple names. I'm letting the market slowly pull me in, but definitely respecting that risk. I don't know, what do you guys think? Do you think this is a bear market rally? Do you think that we're going to roll right over? I mean, the encouraging thing is the S&P, the NASDAQ, and the Dow Jones Industrial Average are all trading above their 50-day and 200-day moving averages. And we have a lot of market participation, which is good. I think these guys are fishing for something here. Hey, Zubin H says Bitcoin is unregulated and highly manipulated by anonymous users. No thanks. Yeah, I mean, I think it's still important to track it to gauge risk in the market, risk sentiment. Kevin says, hello Tom, the ongoing bond inversion will bring about the stock market crash any day now. What are you doing to prepare for that day? Not really doing anything. I tend to be, I trade with the trend. And I think that, once we have that unmitigated, uncontrolled sell-off in the debt market, I think it'll show its face and potentially be pretty obvious. Now, a lot of people have been calling for that for many, many, many years. And trust me, I'm very, very well aware. We talk about it quite often on the live stream here. But you're right. If you want to know where the stock market is going to go, you really should be more so paying attention to the debt market. I like to say that the debt market or the bond market is a derivative, or I should say the stock market is a derivative of the debt market, right? So the stock market derives its value from the bond market, and we have an extremely, extremely large debt bubble, not only in the United States, but globally. And when it comes the time for that to pop, I don't know. I think it's going to be cataclysmic. However, I think a lot of people have underestimated just how long central banks can kick the can down the road. So I don't know. I don't know when that date's going to happen. Mike C says, is it possible to have a recession and have equities continue to rise? Yes, it is. It is very possible. Keep your eyes peeled really quick, guys, for some fish in here. Maybe we'll actually see some dolphins tonight. It is February, so dolphins actually tend to come right in the waterway here. This is 1000 Museum. This is one of my favorite buildings in Miami, Florida. It actually has a helipad on the roof. DWG, what's up? Michael Joseph says, Tom, January retail sales numbers were surprising. I don't buy it though. Well, here's what I think about the January retail sales numbers. Consumers did spend more, but did you notice and take a pretty close look at the data there? Consumers spent more, but consumers didn't really get more, so to speak. So things are just more expensive. So what really fueled retail sales is just consumers paying more for products that they already buy. It's not like they consumed more goods and services. It's just the goods and services that consumers consumed, unfortunately, were a little bit more expensive for obvious reasons. CPI, especially in the categories such as food and energy and shelter, still remain very, very elevated. So here we have it, team. We are at the Miami International Boat Show. This is Museum Park Marina. It's running from February 15th through February 19th. If anybody's interested, I'm not a big boat guy, but maybe we have some yachters and things like that in the chat. Feel free to scan the QR code to find out more information and purchase tickets if you're in the neighborhood. We'll try to walk around the backside and see if we can see any cool yachts or any cool boats. Hey, Michael Joseph says, Tom, the stock market is forward looking. So that's happened before where equity markets went up. Yeah, you're right. The markets tend to look forward into the future about 6 months. You're 100% right. It's a really good point. Let's make a right in here. Oh, you know what, guys? They closed it down for the show. That's unfortunate. Usually we're able to walk straight through here, but since you have to purchase tickets, they closed it down. But let's see if we could take a peek maybe around some of the fence here. Wow, look at that. These things look so unique. I wish I could have came down here during the day to check these out. Hey, Danny says, Tom, have you been to any Miami Heat games? I haven't. That's one of the things I got to do now that I live down here. I got to go to some of the games. I got to go to the Miami Heat game, and I also want to go to a Dolphins game, football. That's definitely on the bucket list of things to do. Hey, Sparks Carnival, what's up? Says, Tom, I'm very worried about expanding or raising the debt ceiling. It's hard to see both political parties coming to an agreement. Come June, we could default on the debt and markets will go boom. So I have a couple thoughts about that, and I actually think it's a big non-issue. Well, let me rephrase that. It is a big issue, but from the point of, oh my God, is the debt ceiling going to be raised and this and that? It's always going to be raised. Always. Now, if you've been in the markets for a long time and you've seen many, or I should say multiple cycles play out, the news flow is almost the same every time, right? It's just like, cycle. It's everybody complains about the debt ceiling, you fight about the debt ceiling, you have a bunch of zero hedge articles that says we're not going to raise the debt ceiling and that the world's going to end and you're going to be eating bugs. And then they raise the debt ceiling and then the thing happens all over again. So, are we spending too much money? Yes. Is our government incompetent and frivolous with spending? Yes. Is it going to stop? No. Should we worry about it? No, because we can't control it. Because we live in a debt-based society. And it's gotten to the point where with central banking, specifically here in the United States from the Federal Reserve, we have to continue to acquire and accumulate more debt for the system to work. If we don't, the system's just going to implode. So this is just going to keep happening in perpetuity forever. Just look at Japan, right? There's no getting out of it. The only way to keep the system going is more debt. Debt, debt, debt. And not to get too much into conspiracy here, but that is one of the reasons why, the military-industrial complex is so strong. Stir up a bunch of wars, print a bunch of money, spend on wars, and the cycle continues to go. because they need to find any excuse they can to pull money from the future to the present, or from the future to the present, and continue to acquire and stack up debt. So it's never going to end. It's just a continuous cycle. Now look at this, guys. This is a gorgeous shot of 1000 Museum. The design is just so unique here. And I think the first 5 floors of the building is a massive parking garage, which actually makes sense because it floods down here a lot in downtown Miami. But it sort of looks like a scorpion. Kind of interesting. Hey, Truth Teller is here. Says, yup, there's a misconception that we're the richest country on earth. We're not. It's all run on debt and credit. You are correct, my friend. We're actually going to head back down this way. But you're right. You're correct. And that's another reason, team, why I think and I believe that the dollar will never, ever, ever lose its spot as the world's reserve currency. The Federal Reserve is funneling dollars around the world, right? That is its job. The Federal Reserve, they want to, I mean, they won't tell you that, but they want to continuously print money. They dollarize the world. So as long as the petrodollar stays intact, and as long as the petrodollar is backed by the full might and full force of the United States military, the US dollar will always be the world's reserve currency, always. In my opinion. Hey, Julia M. says, Tom, is that an argument behind owning gold and silver? That our dollar is backed by nothing? Well, I mean, all currencies now are fiat in nature, right? You know, we run on a fractional reserve lending system. So it's not like you could go into, you know, the bank and, let's just put it this way. There's not actually physical dollar bills and coins that can cover all of the money in circulation. It's just digits on a screen. Now, that's like that in every single country, pretty much. But people say, oh, the dollar's not backed by anything. The dollar is backed by the full force and the might of the United States military, in essence. So is that a bull thesis for gold and silver? I mean, I guess. I think everybody, you know, depending on what your stance in life is, should have exposure to precious metals, right? If you look at history over time, one of the greatest store of values there are is gold and silver. But for me, I think where I am in my investment career, or I should say where I am in my life in terms of a wealth accumulation standpoint, I'm in the acquisition phase, right? So if you want something to retain its value, then yeah, sure, maybe have exposure to gold and silver, but I would much rather find companies that are continuing to grow their revenues, continuing to grow their earnings, and buy shares, right, or buy those particular companies and grow along with those companies. There's going to be more Microsofts, there's going to be more Amazons, there's going to be more Alphabets, more Metas, and on and on and on, right? So I sort of take this stance of like a Warren Buffett, and I'm not sure if anybody's familiar. I'll give you guys one more shot of the Paramount Tower right here. Is familiar with Warren Buffett's take on gold. And I think he announced it at one of the Berkshire Hathaway meetings. And he said, look, I'd really rather not buy gold, right? What am I going to do with it? It's just going to sit in the corner. I'm going to look at it. It's going to look nice. It's going to look shiny. But if I buy businesses and buy companies that produce earnings and that generate cash flow and that pay dividends, right? Well, then that's real, right? You know, I'm buying ownership in a company that makes goods and services, makes products and services, and generates a profit, employs people. You know, he would much rather do that. And I think where I'm at right now, I would much rather do that as well. I'd much rather find companies who have fantastic fundamentals, who are earning money, that have great pre-tax and after-tax margins, that have fantastic and phenomenal return on equity, and I'd rather accumulate those businesses. That's not to say I would never have an allocation to gold and silver, but I think in just where I'm at, I guess that's how I'd answer it. I don't know, what do you guys think? I'm actually more interested in what you guys have to say about it. Here's another shot at the beautiful Freedom Tower here in downtown Miami. Maurice says gold holds its value. Richard Vogel says we have to stop sending billions of dollars overseas and take care of people in our country. John, I know. Hey, Paul Medes is here. Welcome. Michael Joseph says credit markets are still strong even with inflation. People are still buying the debt. Well, the Federal Reserve buys a lot of the debt too. But let's talk about the bond market for a moment, because is anybody familiar with this acronym? Hold on, let me cross the train tracks here. Is anybody familiar with the acronym TINA? There is no other alternative, or there is no alternative. Remember that saying? And essentially, the reason for that saying is because we're coming off about 14 years of artificially suppressed interest rates, which means the vast majority of the debt in the world was negative yielding. So the theory there is, why would I buy a bond, right, or a treasury, or whatever other fixed income product there is that's going to give me a negative rate of return? So there is no other alternative. So I'm forced into the marketplace to search for yield, and that forced a lot of investors into the stock market. Now, remember all of the live streams that we did, particularly back in New York City, when we were talking about the concept that artificially suppressed interest rates and artificially low rates in and of itself forces investors into the marketplace to search for yield, right? The government and the central banks were essentially saying, if you're saving your money, if you're doing the right thing, you're actually going to be punished because you're not going to generate enough yield or return on your investment to beat the rate of inflation, right? Think about, over the last 14 years, pretty much since the great financial crisis, if you left your money in a bank, factoring in your real rate of return, it's negative, right? So that forces people to go into the marketplace, whether that be speculating in real estate, whether that be speculating in equities, or even alternative products like derivative instruments, and that causes speculative manias. So a lot of talk in the chat is about, hey Tom, the debt bubble implosion is going to bring down the world and it's going to destroy everything, and they're actually right. But I think what we don't understand is how long the central banks could actually juggle all these balls in the air for. So the point I'm trying to make, and this is the Elser, by the way. I love this building. I got to get you guys in here. I promise. Let me make this promise to you guys. I will have you guys in this building. I'm going to give you guys a tour of this building. I got to get access to it. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous building. For those of you who are just joining, the Elser is actually specialized in short-term rentals. So you purchase these units, fully furnished, studios, 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and 3-bedroom apartments, fully furnished. When you're not there, they actually have a management company that handles the short-term rental service, but we'll talk about that later. Anyway, back to what we were talking about in relation to the debt market. TINA is gone. There is no other alternative. There actually is. When we were walking around in New York, there was 10-month CDs for 5%. That's an alternative to equities. So is that going to force some investors to say, why would I buy a stock in this environment, or why would I buy equities in this environment when I could just buy a CD that's going to yield me 5%. So there is actually an alternative right now. I mean, we're kind of getting back to normal. I don't know, what do you guys think? Would that influence your decision to not invest in stocks when you could just buy a 10-month yield you 5%? Or do you think that's not a factor for you guys? I'm genuinely curious. Yo, Hollywood Bob is here. What's up? This is Tom. Fantastic looking building. It really, really is. And I think what I'm even more excited about, everybody, is the new Waldorf Astoria that is going to be built very, very soon. I mean, just think about the skyline. You have 1000 Museum down there. You have Freedom Tower, Paramount Building, the Elser, then Waldorf Astoria. This is going to be really cool seeing this over the years. Vivian says, yes, absolutely a factor. Mike sees this totally influences me. It influences me as well. Valerie says the central bank will also fail. Maybe, who knows? Michael Joseph says Powell was a circus juggler in his past life. Hilarious. Hey, James Dixon is here. What's up? Good to see you, James. Thank you for joining. Appreciate it. Al Baker says, what do you think about Warren Buffett buying more Apple? Well, I think it's par for the course for Warren Buffett and his crew over there at Berkshire Hathaway. That's what they do. They buy really, really fantastic businesses. Now, team, this is Bayside Marketplace. We don't have time to go in here today, but I promise you before I go back to New York, I will take you guys here. But we are actually going to head towards Brickell. Hey, Gene says this stream has been perfect with no buffering, with perfect HD. Thank you. I was sure to reset my network settings when I came down to Miami, so. Danny says, isn't there a Lamborghini or Porsche condo in Miami? Well, there's the Aston Martin building, which you're going to see here in a bit. Then in Sunny Isles Beach, Florida, which is not too far away from where I live, is the Porsche Design Tower and the Bentley building, but the Bentley building is not complete yet. Julia M. says, Tom, I've already put $10,000 into one of those CDs. I found it during the week. It's worth it to me. Yeah, I agree. I think it's absolutely worth it. And think about it like this. You know, CPI came in at 6.4%, right? So a 10-month CD yielding 5%, it keeps you up with the course of inflation. If you think about, you know, your trailing month over month, CPI is, or I should say inflation in general, is probably going to get back to the Fed's 2% target within 24 months. So Michael Joseph says Warren Buffett just dumped a ton of Taiwan semiconductor. China military invasion probably got him in a panic. Interesting. My friend Zozo Bob is here. What's up, Bob? Thanks for joining us here in gorgeous downtown Miami. Hollywood Bob says, Tom, you're right about having companies that grow, but I have to disagree with you on gold. I'm 74 and I've been buying gold for 20 years. Just my opinion. Well, I'm not sure we disagree on anything. Jack says oil is not a good commodity. Interesting. Man, the wind is really picking up here in downtown Miami. I'm not sure if you guys could hear it in the microphone. Let's try to cross. Maybe if we go into the city a little bit, the wind will die down a little bit. But if you guys are enjoying the live stream so far, feel free to leave a like on the video and click the subscribe button if you're new. We do these live streams about 5 days a week between New York City and Miami, Florida. And we'd love to have you guys join in the conversation. Now, I wanted to touch on something we were talking about yesterday, and that is the IPO market. IPO, for those of you who don't know, stands for Initial Public Offering. Now, a lot of the major Wall Street investment banks, such as Goldman Sachs, all the big bulge bracket banks, raked in record profits during the pandemic and in 2021 because liquidity was free flowing throughout the entire marketplace. I think 2021 set a record for IPOs, for initial public offerings. But as we've sort of reviewed and covered, in 2022 was a year of quantitative tightening across the board, not only in the United States, but around the world. The wind is. I'm actually getting a headache from the wind. It's just like been non-stop 20-mile-an-hour wind for like an hour now. Hopefully it'll die down as we go over to Brickell. You can see all these palms blowing in the breeze here. Now, in 2022, the IPO market fell off a cliff. Initial public offerings were down 99%. And that's why, if you were an investment banker, depending on which department you're in, your bonus was probably cut in half in 2022. I mean, for obvious reasons. If the deal flow is a lot less and you're working on less deals, well, that's a lot less money for the bank, right? If you think about capital markets, if you think about, mergers and acquisitions, if deal flow is down, if you're bringing a lot less companies public, well, it's a lot less revenue for the bank, a lot less profits for the bank. Therefore, bonuses on Wall Street for analysts, associates, VPs, and managing directors are going to be lower. But the most important thing that you could do during a bear market is pay super close attention to companies that are able to be brought public during the time when an IPO market is totally dead. Now, we're going to talk about a specific company. Now, this is not a recommendation to buy it. There's some people, not all, but there's some people that are crazy, that sends me these crazy emails or comments on the stream. How much are you getting paid to talk about this stock? You can't talk about this. And these people are nuts. So no, I don't get paid to talk about anything. We just have open discussion here. And if you can't be an adult about it and talk amongst adults, then maybe the stream is not for you. So I just need to say that because I get hammered with emails. Take a look at a company called Mobileye. Now, Mobileye was brought public when the IPO market was dead. So if you can have a bank or somebody or a company, in this case Mobileye, get investors to pony up cash during a crazy recession and when markets are getting hammered, right? You had the NASDAQ, I think, was down 33% at its low. The S&P 500 was down over 25%. The Dow Jones Industrial Average was down 20%. And the IPO market froze. The companies who are able to go public during those times usually tend to be the absolute cream of the crop, best companies out there. So just keep it on your radar. Take a look at Mobileye. Again, I'm not saying buy it, I'm not saying sell it. This is just sort of a lesson plan for people to say, look, if you want to try to find companies of quality that are growing their earnings, that are growing their sales, that have great pre-tax and after-tax margins, and have a lot of institutional sponsorship behind them, if a company can go public during a brutal bear market, it's probably a fantastic company. So check that company out. Also, I have a book recommendation for all of you as we talk about IPOs. It'll help you handle these initial public offerings and trade them a little bit better. It's called Life Cycle Trade by Kathy Donnelly and Eve Bobach. And Eve Bobach is actually a portfolio manager now at Ropel Capital Management. Incredibly smart lady, unbelievably smart. She runs the small cap growth fund over there at Ropel Capital Management. But previously to that, she actually used to work at the Federal Reserve Bank, I think of Chicago, I believe. So she used to work for the Federal Reserve, now is a portfolio manager, and did a 3 decades long study on initial public offerings. The book outlines in detail the different characteristics people and investors should be looking at if they want to invest in IPOs, purchase IPOs. What are the different earnings metrics? What are the sales metrics? What are the growth trajectories? And it's just an unbelievable read. So I believe if you go to Amazon, you can get it for 20 bucks, 30 bucks. Really would advise to take a look at that. Valerie says, buy gold and silver and keep it in your home. Wells Fargo says, this bank is far from finished. It's a cesspool for tax evasion. I mean, you're not wrong, actually. Dan McLaren says, hey, Tom, there's actually one more building being built, also 1,000 feet tall. It's called One Bayfront Plaza. You're about to walk in front of it. Yeah, Dan, you're right. And thank God it's being built, too, to Dan's point, because check this out. It's actually right across the street from the office. I'll quickly give you a shot of Miami Tower, City National Bank building, which is really, really, really gorgeous. But right across the street from 200 Southeast Financial Center, they're going to tear down this entire block here, which is all vacant, and it's actually kind of a nasty looking building. They're going to tear down the entire thing, and to Dan's point, they're going to build One Bayfront Plaza. I think they're actually going to connect it to the Metro Mover, but I'm not sure when they're going to break ground on that. Does anybody know? Hey, James Dixon says, I have a bag of Liberty Silver dollars. Who wants to buy it? Maybe if you head down to the Diamond District, you can get some quotes on it. Look at this plane taking off from Miami International. Bree Graham says, Tom, I had a conversation about someone else's retirement today that made me freak out because she asked me, don't I think I'll be at my current job for 20 years? Wow, where will the world be in 20 years? That's true. Yeah, it's really scary to think about, especially now. But let's cross the street here, everybody. This is the corner of Southeast 3rd Avenue and Southeast 2nd Avenue. We're actually going to look at another really cool piece of real estate. G is here. Says, hello, Tom. I just subscribed to your channel. Very good content, sir. I appreciate that, G. And welcome to the Walks in Wall Street family. We're happy to have you here, and I hope you have a great Wednesday night. Hey, Homer Sanchez, what's up? Good to see you. Gorgeous dog. I think that's an American Pit Bull. I love the eyes. Usually they have these really crisp, deep blue eyes. They're gorgeous. Hey, Teresa Diaz, what's up? Dave, welcome. Michael Joseph says the world will probably be in the metaverse in 20 years. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, Meta's making a pretty big bet on that too. Now, the Aston Martin building is right outside of the Epic Hotel and Residences. This is the Whole Foods marketplace, by the way. Now, this is probably one of the most expensive Whole Foods I've ever been to in my life, even more expensive than the one in Deutsche Bank Tower in New York. This one is crazy expensive. Probably because it's in a very high rent district neighborhood here. But the Aston Martin building is almost complete, and I think it's about 90% sold out too. So they sold all of the units, and it's not even finished yet. Hey, Vonda Howard is joining us. What's up, Vonda? Thank you for joining. Hey, Action Kids, this is my local grocery store. It's very expensive. Dude, Action Kid, this is the most expensive Whole Foods I've ever been in. There's also another one up by me. That's a lot less expensive, but for whatever reason, this one is crazy expensive. I think I got like an individual juice in there one time, and it was like $12. It was really, really bizarre. Dan McLaren says groundbreaking is still to be determined, but the fact that they already evicted the tenants is a serious sign. Yeah, another thing, as we make our way over to Brickell, I think they're going to start the groundbreaking, or they got the demolition for, I forget what the name of it, One Brickell Plaza, I think it's called. All right, who's into cars here? I think this is, what is that symbol, a Maserati? See, I'm learning the cars slowly but surely. I think that's a Maserati and that's an Aston Martin, right? There's always really nice vehicles outside of here. Hey, Our Mini Mansion says we're always watching, so thought we'd say hello, Tom. Well, thank you for watching, and thank you for stopping by to say hello. Hello to you as well. And I hope you had a good Valentine's Day. Okay, real estate stop number 2, team. Here we have it. This is the Aston Martin building. Now, story has it that this building is going to glow bright white, very similar to that of the Miami Tower. Ed T, what's up, Ed? Thanks for joining us. Terry's is probably $500,000 sitting right there. Is that how much they cost? Those Aston Martins and Maseratis, $500,000? Wow. Whoa, Isaac C says it should glow bright green. Hey, Valerie says all groceries are expensive. Turn your backyard into a garden. You'd be surprised with how much food you can grow. Now that's true. That was a major category in the CPI report that rocketed through the roof, which is food. Now in my backyard, I have mangoes, I got lemons, avocados, and what is the other one I got? Coconuts. All right, I'm actually gonna put my hood up because it's so windy. I have a splitting headache. That's how windy it is. So this is the JW Marriott Marquis, Miami. I see my good friend Evan Weeks says, evening, Tom, how's Miami tonight? Very windy, but also pretty gorgeous. Now, throughout the entire day today, Evan, it was about 80 degrees and bright sunshine, but I've been noticing at night, once it turns, 8 o'clock, the wind really starts to pick up quite substantially, especially here in downtown Miami. But tonight we were just talking about the bond market a little bit. We were talking about the debt ceiling, how I think they're just going to raise it, how it's going to be a little bit of a non-issue. And we briefly touched on the CPI report again and had a discussion about risk appetite in the market. Bitcoin was up 10% today. A lot of the very speculative, high beta growth stocks, like the ARK Innovative ETF, also caught a pretty decent bid. And we're seeing a lot of institutions start to sell off some of the more conservative names. Now, if you remember, once this market started to roll over, a lot of institutions like the Fidelities of the world, the big mutual fund managers and the custodians, they started to pile into names like Church and Dwight. Church and Dwight, ticker symbol CHD. They make, the baking sodas of the world, toothpaste, different toiletries and things like that. Now they're actually selling off, and you're starting to see a rotation now, I should say, back into the more frothy names. That means the market has a greater appetite for risk, which is encouraging. All the major equity indices now are trading above the 50-day and the 200-day. Looks like the bridge just went up. Let's see if we could take a look at see if there's any boats that are coming by. There's the Miami Boat Show here, so. Solidus. This is such a pretty city, this is. Thank you so much. So now we are walking from downtown Miami over to Brickell. This is and you're going to have a pretty cool view of the water. Maybe we'll start to see some boats going by, or maybe some yachts parked. Hey Rachel, what's up? Says I have a mango tree, avocado, coconut tree, soursop tree, and just added a jackfruit tree that'll take a few years to grow. That's awesome. Did I say mangoes? Well, I got those too. And I will tell you guys, and Rachel, I promise, I'm not just saying this because they're in my backyard. The mangoes that grow here in southern Florida in my backyard are the best tasting mangoes I've ever tasted in my life. Now maybe that's because they're not, inundated with all these pesticides, but they're fantastic. They are really, really, really good. If you guys look all the way in the distance, this is Brickell Key. Just an absolutely gorgeous view here. And then you have the W Hotel and Residences. This is actually one of my favorite buildings in Miami. And then on the other side, I think that's the Metro Mover. I used to confuse that with the Bright Line, but that is the Metro Mover track as well. Valerie's is in there, very healthy. Yeah, you're right. Chris Beeman, what's up? Good to see you, Chris. Now the wind is really picking up here because we're going over the bridge. You can see the Miami Riverwalk as well as all the restaurants down here. And here's one more shot at the beautiful Aston Martin building. Absolutely gorgeous. Take a look at the American flag, and that gives you an idea of just how windy it is. It's literally probably 25-mile-an-hour winds. Hey, Joseph Hardaway, what's up? Good to see you. Now, I think somebody already mentioned this in the chat, everybody, but we did get the spending numbers out, and consumer spending was actually up. Bill Rowland's checking in. What's up, Bill? Good to see you. Here's the Florida state flag. It's extremely windy. Now, consumer spending was up, but did anybody notice why? Did anybody notice why spending was up? And it's not because consumers were, out there spending more money and consuming more products and services. It was just because things are more expensive, which is unfortunate. Now, here's what I use as a proxy for that, and we may or may not have talked about this already on the stream, but if you look at, specific retailers, I use Home Depot. They report on this. This is just an example. But Home Depot, if you look at their earnings report, they report a metric called average ticket price. And this is the average ticket. So if you walk into Home Depot, they record the average transaction. So if you go in there, you spend 75 bucks, you can get a gauge if people are spending more money and buying more goods and services, or if they're just buying the same amount of stuff, and if that stuff is just extremely expensive. And over the past couple reports for Home Depot, we've actually seen consumers spending more, so average ticket prices going up. But the problem is, and this is the key, they're buying the same amount of items, they just cost more. Hey, Valerie Rogers, thank you so much for your very generous $5 donation. Says, hey Tom, buy some veggie seeds and plant them. Thank you so much, Valerie. I probably will do that. So I appreciate the support and your very kind donation. Thank you for joining Walks on Wall Street, Valerie. Appreciate it. ATC says, take care of yourself, Tom. Thank you so much. Brad's Brain says, cost more dollars to buy. Of course, spending dollars is up, worthless number. It's a good point. Definitely a good point. But restaurant spending was up as well, and I definitely believe that. And I think this stream is a pretty good proxy for that, if I may pat myself on the back for a second. We walk around New York City, we walk around Miami. These are two major cities. And every time we pass a restaurant, doesn't matter what the day of the week is, people are out spending, people are out eating. And I think that's really a testament to the big C coming to a close. People want to go out, people want to hang out with friends, people want to hang out with family, people want to be together. You know, I think just by and large, people are kind of sick of working remote. People are sick of being strapped down in their homes. So if at any chance they can get out and go to a restaurant and spend money, they're doing it. I mean, in New York City, the restaurants are packed. In Miami, the restaurants are packed. This is the W Hotel icon Brickell right here. Very good shot of Bank of America Tower. Yeah, Evan Weeks' restaurants are way, way, way up. Huge blowout number for restaurants. And, you know, Evan, it's interesting because a lot of this stuff corroborates with one another. Excuse me. Apologize. But notice what we talked about when the non-farm payroll numbers came out. Does anybody remember? It was a very, very key critical point or a fact about those non-farm payroll numbers is that, yes, even though, oh, check out these two dogs over here. Oh, there's three of them. We'll go check them out. Hold on, we'll wait for the light. You know, even though we got that big blowout number, 500,000 jobs created. The top two categories for job creation was, you guessed it, hospitality, leisure, and restaurants. So it's no wonder that when we get the sales data out, more people are spending at restaurants, and it's no wonder when we get the jobs data out, well, demand from people going out and spending. So I think there's a bull market. You know, one of the major, you know, kind of corny sayings that I say on the stream all the time is that there's always a bull market somewhere. You just need to know where to look. Well, look at hospitality, look at leisure, look at restaurants. Take a look at a stock like Wingstop, ticker symbol WING. Take a look at Hilton, ticker symbol H. Or excuse me, Hyatt, ticker symbol H. Look at Marriott. All of these hotel stocks are trading at or near all-time record highs. And there's a reason for that. And all of the different economic data starts to support that claim. It's kind of interesting how we could piece all of this together. It's one of the reasons why I love the capital markets and the economy so much. Guys, you see what's happening over here? It looks like something's going on. Tons of police officers over there. Maybe we'll check it out. I hope everybody's all right. Maybe it's just an accident. Hey, Lupe. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Richard Vogel, welcome. Out to the movies again. Nice to enjoy a movie with other folks around. I got to get out to see a movie in person too. I haven't been in a really, really long time. I apologize, I'm a bit distracted by what's going on here. There's one too few many police officers. I hope it's not something major. Oh, you know what? I think it's a traffic stop, but maybe there was some paraphernalia or something in the car, because they have the people sitting on the curb. Now that's just my guess. I think that's a Bentley right here. See, ever since I moved to Miami, do you guys notice I start to pick up on the different car brands now? If you've been watching Walks on Wall Street for like a year now, you know I'm not a car guy at all. I'm totally oblivious. But I'm starting to learn, you know, slowly but surely I'm learning, I guess. Lupe, 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 I'm down. You got traffic backed up all the way down Brickell Avenue too. Memo is here, theater stocks are up too. I'm not too sure. Dan Zhang says that's a nice Bentley Continental G. What is it called? GTC. How much do you think that costs, Dan? I don't know the values of the vehicles, but maybe you do. Ah, team, this is what we were talking about. So One Brickell City Center. This is it. This building is going to be demolished. Now, they finally got the permits to do not the groundbreaking, but the demolition. So we'll actually check out this site now. And here is sort of like a concept of what it's going to look like. Tons of new developments going up in not only Miami, but New York City as well. I think one of the things I'm most excited about... Wait. That's hilarious. Look at this, guys. What do they got? Ticker symbol GOOG. They have alphabet here. That's so funny. That's too funny. Now, I think the building I'm most excited about in New York is the JP Morgan Chase building. Evan Weeks, Tesla needs to open up its charging network to competitors or they're going to get hit with a hell of a fine. So I read about that today, didn't he? I got to read up on that because I'm not too sure I understand it too much. But now, if we really want this EV revolution to take off, I think that a lot of these auto OEMs should work with the government to get a charging standard, right? Because here's the thing. You look at all these vehicles right here. The vast majority of them, you know, obviously take gas. And it's all universal. You pull up to the gas station and you put gas in your car. But with EVs, if you really want it to work, we need all of the different EVs to have the same exact charging port. You know, it can't be like an iPhone and an Android, or the infrastructure is just not going to work, right? You can't have 50 million different types of plugins. So I think Tesla and the other auto OEMs should come together and make some sort of a pact to say, look, this is the design we're going to agree on, this is the charging port we're going to agree on, and this is what we have to go with. Because if you really want this thing to work, it has to be universal. It has to be. Now, I'm not sure if it already is. I doubt it, but you know, you're going to need to expand this charging network quite substantially. And if it's all different, it's just not going to work. Michael Joseph says, yes, Tesla opened up the charging to all vehicles. It's big. Matthew M says, Apple is finally getting USB-C. Yeah, you go from Lightning to USB-C. I mean, think of my Mac. Now, you know what was the most annoying thing? Was this Thunderbolt port. I've never used it. I think Apple's actually trying to go away from that. Yeah, Chinook wins his adapters and plugs. Jeff277 says, Tom, you obviously saw the Mark Fields interview. You were almost repeating what he said. I didn't see the Mark Fields interview. But I guess great minds think alike. I don't even know who Mark Fields is. That's too funny though. What, he was saying the same thing about the charging things? All right, team, this is Brickell City Center. It looks like there's some sort of a party going on up top. Hey, E. Monica B, good to see you. Guys, I think we're gonna go into the Brickell City Center because we gotta get out of the wind. Jeff W. says Mark Fields was the CEO of Ford for a while. I didn't know that. Wow, guys, this is crazy. Look at all the development going on. This is 830 Brickell. Check it out. It's going to be amazing once it's complete. Hey, Sam Nia says hello from Denmark. Very good talk. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome from Denmark. This is the shops at Brickell City Center. There's over 120 shops and restaurants in this place. SUV type vehicles. Looks really nice. I think this may be like a nightclub, maybe bar and grill, something like that. Wow, the inside looks really nice, guys. Look at that. That looks gorgeous in there. You can see everybody's hair blowing in the wind. It's such a windy night outside tonight in Miami. But if you look to the left, these are actually my two favorite apartment buildings in Brickell. Twitch ASMR says Brickell has really nice buildings but insane HOA. I could imagine, because if you think about all these buildings down here, all of them probably have multiple swimming pools, multiple gyms, doormen, 24-hour white gloves. Luxury living down here. So to Twitch ASMR's point, the HOA fees are probably going to be pretty steep. Yeah, James Dixon, Lucid Motors right here. This actually went public via SPAC, a special purpose acquisition company. Zozo Bob says, Tom, 830 Brickell will be a 57-story office tower. Hey Bob, do you know if, have any tenants been signed any leases in there yet? Because it almost looks complete, doesn't it, Bob? I mean, it's got to be like 90% done already. I wouldn't be surprised if they already started to sign some tenants in there. This is the SLS Lux Tower. Talk about another different condominium that has rather elevated HOA. Dave says Lucid is cool, so is Rivian. I think we've yet to see a Lucid or a Rivian on the street during our live stream. Oh no, didn't we, team, help me out here. Didn't we see, was it a Rivian we saw live in New York? I forget. It's either one of the two we have yet to see live in action. It was either a Lucid or a Rivian. Now Rivian, Amazon has a very big equity stake in the company, but I've never seen them out. Millie Vanillia says, I actually saw a Lucid on 101 here in Cali for the first time last week. Oh, dude, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I never, very, very seldom do I see any. Almost never. I think the weirdest type of, well, it's tech, I mean, you can't, these aren't for purchase, but remember we saw the Google Waymo? Now Waymo is the autonomous driving unit of Google or Alphabet. We saw that near NYU. I think it was it last summer? I think it may have been last summer. But that thing was kind of cool looking. The sensors on that thing probably cost a couple $100,000. Anyway, this is Southeast 9th Street, South Miami Avenue. Alex says, Tom, I've also seen a ton of new Amazon Rivians. They're everywhere. Really? Which state do you live in? I haven't seen any. Michael Joseph says the Rivian Amazon trucks are incredible. Michael, you've seen them on the street? I've yet to see them. Hollywood Bob, I get to see quite a few Rivian trucks here in Northeast Ohio. A good looking truck. Hey, Hollywood Bob, hopefully you're all right, man, because this chemical spill or whatever the hell happened in Ohio is really scary. I think we could all agree about that. That is really, really horrible. Now, I'm not an environmentalist, and I don't really know too much about it, but I will say this. I think the governor of Ohio is telling everybody that it's safe to go back. I don't know, if I lived there, man, I'd be out of there. And I know that the vast majority of people who live in that town in Ohio don't have the means to do that. But I would figure out a way to get out of there, because it reminds me too much of 9/11, when they told all the first responders and the office workers that it was safe to work in Lower Manhattan. And then, fast forward 10 years, everybody has cancer, One of those being my uncle. My uncle was at the ground zero for months, helping out with the cleanup, and now he has a 9/11 related illness, and it was not safe to be down there. They had no masking, they had nothing. So, don't always trust what the government says, because I don't know. If I was in the area, I would not be there. Let's just say that. I would be somewhere else. You'd be surprised. I mean, it's not really televised that often, but chances are, if you're a New Yorker or you know somebody who worked in Lower Manhattan or who worked on the cleanup, they have all these crazy illnesses. My uncle has really bad sinus problems. He actually has to go and get his sinuses scraped because he always has all of these crazy, like growths and all this weird stuff from breathing in all the chemicals from being at ground zero. Hey, marketing videography, what's up? Always a pleasure to see you. Welcome to Miami, Florida. Welcome to Brickell. Hollywood Bob's is East Palestine, Ohio, only 30 miles from me. I agree that it is still dangerous. Dude, take care of yourself, man. I would, yeah, I don't know. Hey, Blues Riders, it's Tom. I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio. People here are used to things catching on fire. Hilarious. Well, I don't know. I don't know anything about it, but I would be very careful about it. Hey, Ken says, I hear the centuries, really? Jeez. Man, dude. Yeah, I think Norfolk Southern is going to have a lot of explaining to do. I don't know. It's. I only just learned about the whole situation a couple days ago, too. And I actually learned about it from Twitter. Hey, Stephen Bate, what's up? Little Larry Sellers. Well, I mean, hopefully it's not as bad as everybody's saying, right? Hopefully it's not. Here's another Lamborghini truck here. Michael says, Tom, the EPA in Ohio has the rail car company Norfolk Southern doing the air tests. Yeah, I believe nothing they say. Get a third party to do it. Well, I mean, if they have the company doing it, they're obviously going to play it down. Tons of people outside tonight. There's always really nice cars outside of here. What is this one? Let's see. Let's get a little bit closer. I think it looks like a Ferrari. I think it is. Anybody know how much that costs? I'm going to take a guess. I'm going to guess $250,000, and that's just totally a random guess. I'll guess $250,000. I don't know if that's way too much or way too little. Who knows? I like how they decorated the trees here. Whoa, $600,000. Jeez. I think this is a Porsche Panamera here. I think they actually made an EV, an electric version. Lupe says, Tom, are you considering buying a car? I'm not. I got the little scooter that gets me around fine. I just don't want the liability. Now, one of the things about me, it's kind of weird. I hate having to worry about anything. Now, I know I'm explaining it horribly, but maybe some of you can relate to me. I just want to focus on work. So, like, for example, let's say if I'm driving a car in New York City, I park it on the street. Now I have to worry about somebody banging into it. I have to worry about getting a ticket. I have to worry about, it getting stolen or vandalized. I can't even think about any of that. I just have to focus on work. I can't think about the liability. I just can't think about it. Hey, marketing videography. This is I was going to volunteer but didn't. Believe Whitman. This is marketing videography. Yeah. All right, we'll do one more pass here. and then we will head out. For a Wednesday night, it's actually pretty busy. I was actually expecting it to be dead tonight because yesterday was Valentine's Day. But as we know from the consumer spending numbers that we got out, consumers are really spending loads of money on bars and restaurants. And if you notice from the live streams, every time we're in Miami and every time we're in New York, almost every single restaurant, every single bar is always packed, regardless of where we go. And I think that has to do with a lot of the pent-up demand from the big C. You know, look at Airbnb. Airbnb posted a pretty good quarter, beat and raise quarter yesterday. That stock is now officially on my watch list. I think it's had the first profitable year in company history. So I can just tell you a little bit of anecdotal data about my property. The demand is still really high, extremely high that it be. I think I just noticed this. The wall is all bottles of what? What is this, wine, champagne? Yeah, Eric says it's weird that Miami doesn't have piles of trash on the sidewalk. Well, I think they keep it inside, but I do agree Miami is very clean. Hey, Cool Weather Farmer, what's up? So I feel the same way about cars. There's the Metro Mover going by. Yeah, I just don't want to worry about it. I don't want to worry about it. Hey, Ryan Iglesias, what's up? Good to see you. Now, I'll tell you guys a quick story, because we covered a lot today in the first hour of the stream. We had really good conversations about central banking, fractional reserve lending, all that good stuff. So I'll tell you the main reason why I've formulated this viewpoint as it relates to cars. Now, I want you guys to picture the Upper West Side of Manhattan, specifically between 83rd Street and 86th Street, okay? Now, when I was a kid, I say kid, I mean like 19, 20 years old. Anyway, a lot of you guys know, maybe some of you don't if you're new here, one of my first jobs was at a rental car agency. The company is called Enterprise. We would operate out of a parking garage in Manhattan. Now, here's the problem. Enterprise would pay the parking garage for a dedicated amount of parking spots for when customers would return the vehicles, right? Well, we would oftentimes have something called overflow, which is, oh, hold that thought. This is the best Argentine restaurant in Miami, hands down. This place is fantastic. If you are in Miami or in Brickell, come to this place. Very good place to take clients. So anyway, we would have a lot of overflow. So what we would have to do, and being it was me, we would have to park the cars all up and down the streets from 83rd Street to 86th Street. But here was the downside. On Mondays, or depending on what day it was alternate side parking for the street sweeping. So imagine me stressing out like crazy, running around like a chicken with my head cut off. I'm literally carrying probably like 20 to 30 keys in my hand to all these different cars that I parked on the street. I have the street sweeper behind me. I have NYPD officers behind me. I have fire trucks trying to get through. I have to pull the cars into the middle of the road, let the street sweeper go by, parallel park the car back, go to the next car, do the same thing all the way up and down the block. It was the most horrifying experience ever. And a lot of New Yorkers have to do that so you keep that parking spot, right? So a lot of times, I'm not sure if anybody's ever seen this, at like 8 o'clock in the morning, you'll have cars parking in the middle of the road so the street sweeper can go by and then parallel parking it back. But if you live near 86th Street, anywhere between 83rd and 86th Street, chances are you will never find the parking space because the vast majority of the parking is taken up by rental car agencies. So there's a little bit of a tip for you guys. If you're looking to move to the Upper West Side of Manhattan, you will never find